Well, it's official. I just saw The Last Jedi last night. I had a 10:30 showing, and boy, I was exhausted when I got home, and I had every intention of recording a movie review, but there's just so much of that movie I had to process that I wanted to type everything out and get my thoughts together so I wasn't rambling the whole time. So, okay, so the first part of this is going to be non-spoiler. I'm going to throw up a spoiler on the screen if you want to avoid those in case you haven't seen it yet. But okay, so right off the bat, if you are trying to avoid spoilers for this, stay off social media. I would say that if you come across plot details, you're going to wish you didn't know them going into this movie. So I would say avoid spoilers at all costs. Me, I was avoiding any reviews, non-spoiler reviews. I didn't want to know anything. The only thing I've seen is the trailers and some TV spots, but I went into it. I didn't even want anyone's opinions about how great the movie was tainting my viewpoint going in. So, okay, all right. From the rumblings I had heard about this movie, I was expecting it to be pretty dark, and it honestly wasn't too heavy for me, which is good. This movie just kind of explores the light side and the dark side of the Force, and what are the good things and bad things about each one. I really got a sense of how destroyed the Resistance was, especially after Starkiller Base destroyed the Hostian system. They're scrambling. The Resistance is just in tatters, and they're just trying to survive. And the overall plot is Rey's trying to find her purpose. Kylo is trying to find his. Visually, this movie was beautiful and stunning, and I was really hoping that it wouldn't be too heavy so I could take my daughter to see it. So I saw it last night, and I actually do have tickets for her to go see it. And she's 7, and I don't think she'd be scared by this. I don't think there's any scenes that would be too intense. The only one I can think of is one that was in the trailers. There's a moment there. That's about as heavy as it gets, sort of. But anyways, so this movie was pretty good. I would highly recommend seeing it. So, all right. So now I'm going to talk spoilers. So I have 2 pages of notes. I'm going to get through them as fast as I can, but we're talking spoilers from here on out, so you've been warned. Okay, Rian Johnson completely outdid himself with this plot. It was incredible. The locations were stunning. Crate was just beautiful. Yeah, I was blown away by just the salt and then the red underneath. It was so beautiful. The score, you gotta love John Williams. The score in this was fantastic. There were moments that I noticed it when I needed to notice it, and there were other moments that it was just subtle and soft, and it was perfect. If John Williams ever passes away, he will be sorely missed. Okay, so I think the biggest jaw-dropping plot to me in all of this was that the Luke we know from Return of the Jedi is completely different from the Luke in this movie, and guaranteed there's a huge time span between movies. But you have to remember that most of us saw these movies when we were younger, the original trilogy, and I think when I build up characters in our minds and we look up to them and we admire them, we tend not to see that they're fallible. We don't know what their human weaknesses are. We build them up as superheroes in our mind, and I think we forget that Luke is human. Above being a Jedi, he's human and he can make mistakes. And part of me was a little saddened that this hero that I've looked up to as the best Jedi, that he fell so far, in a sense. I mean, overall, his journey does make sense, though. And he doesn't fall to the dark side. He just gets so disillusioned, that all his work and training the younglings went wrong, and that he didn't sense Kylo turning dark. It makes sense. You think about it, it kind of has to go this way. I mean, Luke had his whole life destroyed because of Anakin's actions and Vader's actions. I mean, he never met his mom. He finds out who his dad is and has to actually fight him. And yes, he turns him back to the good side, or, gets him there and helps him there. But I'll bet it took years after Return of the Jedi for Luke to mentally process all the evil that Vader committed. And it's no wonder he was terrified of what Ben could become. He saw how it destroyed millions of lives by Vader's actions, and he knew Kylo was so powerful. you know, it's really no wonder that he, for a moment there, had the thoughts of killing Ben. I mean, Luke himself was never fully trained. I mean, I know the Jedi had flawed viewpoints, and I wonder, you know, if he would have benefited from like full Jedi training at the temple. But Yoda even told him, you know, no more training do you require. But that was just him for himself. Does not mean he's qualified to start teaching numerous younglings at once. I think he took on too much too soon. And, you know, I'm sure there's parts of the story we don't know. I really, really hope that there's a novel that kind of fills in the blanks. Why Obi-Wan and Yoda didn't help him and warn him that Kylo was being tempted by the dark side, you know, I really don't know. I think his journey makes sense. It's a shock, yes. And you know what? We're grown-ups. We have to understand that, you know, Luke is not going to be this perfect character that always makes the perfect choices. This makes him human. This makes him relatable. It sets up expectations of, you know, you can try to accomplish something great, but you know what? You can fail, and it's okay to fail. And that's what I loved about this. And I know it's hard to accept, but if you think about it, it does make sense that it would go that way. You know, when Yoda showed up as a Force ghost, that was tears. I thought the CGI and the puppet use that they mixed together was fantastic. Yoda is just Yoda. You gotta love him. I felt like no time had passed at all. There wasn't that disjointed feeling from the prequel Yodas. I felt like we had the Yoda back from, you know, the original trilogy. Now Kylo, wow. Adam Driver did a phenomenal job in this movie. My biggest curiosity is him turning to the dark side. I want to know how Snoke turned him. And how did not Luke sense what was going on sooner? And again, you know, why wasn't Yoda there for guidance? It makes you wonder, he was trained from a young age. Did Kylo ever really stand a chance? Like in Bloodline, it mentions that Leia could sense, you know, from when he was in the womb, that there was a struggle between the dark and the light. And, you know, if Snoke corrupted and manipulated him from such a young age, you know, did he ever really have a chance? Was there ever the possibility, you know, that you could turn to the dark or the light? And you think about it, I mean, Luke had a choice, but he was much older. He was, what, 18, 19? Kylo was probably, I'm trying to figure out how old he would be when he started his training, but, you know, it mentions as an infant, like I said, and, you know, if he's training as a 7 or 8-year-old, very easily manipulated. And, you know, you think him finding out that Vader was his dad, and him already having years of being tempted by Snoke and the dark side, it's no wonder he turned to the dark side, especially if he has a father that he doesn't relate to or understand. And we know Han Solo, we love him, and it was horrible to see him die at the hands of his son. But, I mean, I think we all can admit Han Solo probably wasn't the best father to Kylo. So that's, you know, wound number one, as far as, you know, someone on the light side isn't exactly, you know, helping him grow up to be the man he's supposed to be. I think it was just a recipe for disaster, you know, probably an absentee, unrelatable father figure. You've got Leia, who has, you know, you have all these expectations put on you as a kid because of who your mom is and who your uncle is. Yeah, it's no wonder he turned to the dark side if you think about it. And, you know, in a few of his moments in his conversation with Rey, I could see him considering turning to the light side, but I think you add the fact that his uncle and his mentor, for a moment, thought about actually killing him. You think about that, what that does to your psyche. It makes you self-doubt. Could I really stay to the light side? Is it easier just to surrender to the dark side? If the one person who is training me and knows me better than my own mom thinks that I'm worth killing, how would that not make anyone give up? You know, that's pretty sad if you think about it. And overall, I feel really sorry for Kylo, because I feel like in some ways he never really had a choice. I think he's just too damaged. Okay, on to the big one, Leia. When I saw Carrie Fisher come up on screen, I did tear up. It was touching, and to realize for that second, okay, this is the last time we're gonna see her in a Star Wars movie that we know of. I love that we saw more of her in this movie than we did The Force Awakens. I thought Carrie did a great job. The only thing I thought that was a little hokey was when she uses the Force to go back to the ship. Visually, that just seemed kind of odd to me. I like that it happened that way, but I did find that a little jarring, and it just took me out of the movie for a second. I'm like, oh, that looks a little weird. But also saddened to see Admiral Akbar die. He went out with his boots on, though. And Leia, you know, she's more powerful than I give her credit for. Like, I never, you know, we see her, like, sense the Force, you know, and try to talk to other people, and she can sense when things are happening. But to her actually use the Force like that to save her own life, that was pretty cool. I didn't think she was trained enough to be able to do that. So that was nice. I love that Billie Lourd was in this movie a lot more, Carrie's daughter. She did pretty good. The moment at the end where Luke shows up at the base and her and Luke are talking, that was a tear-jerking moment because, you know, they addressed a little bit about Han. You could tell they're talking about him, and you can see just that moment of, you know, I'm admitting my failures. I know what I did wrong, but I'm here to make it right. And for Leia to realize that her son is lost, as a moment that's just like, ugh. And as a mom, you know, how do you get to that point? And for me, I guess I had thought, okay, if Kylo's going to be redeemed, how would fans really believe that? How would they want that to happen? And I thought, okay, if you put Princess Leia and Ben right in front of each other, and she's tearfully telling her son, I forgive you for killing your father, there would not be a dry eye in the place. If those two actors sold it, there would not have been a dry eye in the place. And then I think we would have believed that Kylo could be redeemed. But that didn't happen. And so, you know, I think it's heartbreaking, you know, her only son that she has, you know, she has to let him go, and she has to realize that, you know, there's a bigger picture I have to think about. So that was great. I honestly did think Leia was going to die in this movie. So how J.J. Abrams is going to write off her character, I don't know. Okay, so this could go two ways. Disney came right out and said they're not doing CGI. Okay, so my thoughts are maybe they already filmed her death and are going to spread out those scenes in episode 9. They just stretch the story arc. That's one possibility. The other one is they recast it. I know a lot of people are against that, but for me personally, I would rather have the send-off and have the character of Leia get the story ending she deserves rather than her just be written off. I don't want her dying in the opening crawl of episode 9. I want her character to have the end that she deserves. So for me, I would rather see her recast. I would hope in some way there'd be CGI, but Disney said they're not going to do that. So I don't know, but then that might take me out of the film. I mean, Tarkin was great in Rogue One, but I don't think they could pull off Carrie Fisher and have it be convincing and not have it be taking people out of the movie. So it is a huge, huge conundrum in my mind of how this is going to happen. And I think Carrie Fisher would be like, who cares? You know, I don't think she would care either way. I think she would care more of, you know, give it to the fans. Give my character the ending she deserved. I don't care if someone else takes the role. You know, I think I think she's probably laughing at all of this. And as far as Snoke, who the heck is Snoke? That was the first words out of my mouth as soon as the credits started rolling. I am frustrated that that question was not answered. And I see that his own arrogance was his downfall, but I want to know who he was. How is he so strong in the Force? Luke and Snoke went head to head. I have a feeling Luke would clean his clock. And he seemed more powerful, maybe just from my own interpretations from The Force Awakens. So it was just kind of odd to see him die the way he did. As far as Rey, I love the maturity we saw in her character from The Force Awakens. I really, really thought she was going to turn to the dark side in this movie. Yeah, if you had asked me what it was going to happen, I would have said that. I thought it was amazing how she does her best to reach out to Luke and draw him out of his depression. I thought the Force Rocks scene at the end was pretty cool. Her battle with against the guards and against Snoke, you know, in the throne room. Whew, that's one for the record books. That was pretty cool. And I'm really glad that the issue of her parents was addressed. You know, I kind of had a feeling it wasn't either. I guess in my mind I thought if her parents are nobodies, then Snoke has to be somebody really big. But if Snoke is someone insignificant who's just managed to hide in the shadows this whole time, then Rey's parents have to be really important. So I guess I thought it was kind of one or the other. So maybe that's why I'm still frustrated. We don't know who Snoke is. But overall, man, I love Rey. I think she's a great character. And Daisy really did a fantastic job in this movie. All right, Hux. As far as Hux, man, that guy is just as whiny as ever. He just reminds me of like a petulant child that just does not get his way and just is astonished that, what, my plans aren't working, you know, oh my gosh, they're getting the best of me. Like, it's just, wow, a recipe for, yeah, anything you do is going to go wrong because you can't, oh, if I do X, Y, and Z, then this is going to happen. No, the real world does not work that way. And to me, like Snoke, he seemed weaker in this movie than The Force Awakens. I honestly loved how Kylo kept knocking him around. That was hilarious. As far as Finn's journey in this story, I really enjoyed it. I wish there was more of a battle between him and Phasma. I wish we saw more of her character before she kicked the bucket. Well, at least we think she kicked the bucket, because last we saw her, she was getting tossed down a garbage compactor. But no, Finn was great. The humor moments were great. I loved his chemistry with Rose. She was adorable. And I guess in my mind, I saw her as this more mature character. But she seemed very innocent. And I think that's why her and Finn get along so well, is he's got this innocence of, he doesn't really know how the real world works because he's been raised with the First Order, and she's been stuck, you know, she lost her family and her planet, but at the same time, like, she does have an innocence about her too, and I think that's a great combination with her and Finn, so I'm really looking forward to see where those two go. Poe, he seemed kind of like a loose cannon, but, you know, that's what we expect from Poe. I think his heart was in the right place for a lot of the things he did. I loved his chemistry with Leia. Oh gosh, it's just, that was great. I love that their interactions were pretty cool. And maybe this is just my misinterpretation, but I did kind of see a little bit of a spark between him and Rey at the end of the movie there. So I don't know, we'll see where that goes. But anyways, Haldo, Laura Dern's character, I know her from reading Leia, Princess of Alderaan. I thought her character was great, and you underestimate her. I was trying to figure her out. I'm like, is she really just a wimp? Is she trying to run away? Did she have a bigger plan? Like, but overall, I loved the strength and dignity in her character. I thought it was a great addition to this movie. Okay, so to wrap up, the best shot in the film for me was the shot of Luke and Kylo facing off. Like, they face off and then they switch spots, and just that camera angle and the lighting, it was just beautiful. The porgs were hilarious. I love how they're nesting in the Falcon and how they're glaring at Chewie when he was going to start to eat one. That just added levity to the movie that I personally loved. I can see kids just loving that part of the movie. Yeah, I did notice the little nugget at the end where Finn is looking for blankets in the drawer on the Falcon for Rose. The books were in there from Skywalker Island, like the island with, yeah, that Luke was at. And it's like, okay, how did those get there? Did Rey take them, or did the books move themselves? Because maybe there's something in there, you know, that Yoda overlooked that was important. I don't know. Okay, so my faults with this movie, the biggest one is who Snoke is. I want to know more about him. If he was so strong to tempt Kylo, I felt we deserved a little bit of backstory about it. Han's death wasn't really addressed a whole ton. And I understand from like a plot pacing standpoint, you really don't want to just throw in a funeral scene. It would just mess with the pace of the whole movie. But for some reason, I just feel a little dissatisfied about that. But yeah, and yeah, I thought the escape, that was like a huge part of the movie, like the Resistance trying to get away from the First Order. I felt maybe that could have happened within the first 20 minutes, and then we move on to, you know, Crete, and then another sequence or another space battle or something. I think that was a little, I don't know, I felt that could have been shrunk quite a bit. Yeah, and yeah, so overall, I really liked this movie. I definitely want to see it again, definitely taking my daughter. Rian Johnson, you did a phenomenal job. Thank you for giving us Star Wars again. All the actors, the cast was incredible. My rating for this movie overall, I'm going to give it a 9.5 out of 10. There are just a couple of little things that I didn't like, but you know what? Overall, it didn't take away from the movie. So, all right, nerds, chime in on the comments. Tell me what you think. Did you love this movie? What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? Be nice in the comments. All right, thank you so much for watching. If you like watching movie reviews, trailer reactions, and Star Wars content, please subscribe. All right, have a great day, and may the Force be with you. Bye.